I'm back. Well, what am I doing today? Well, I've got a Kemper, a rack. Well, many moons ago, back in sort of January, I ordered a remote pedal that was coming out presently. Well, presently's now. We're at the end of, somewhere near the end of March, so it took 3 months to get here. Early bird, no. Late bird, yeah. So here it is. Big heavy thing. Reminds me of the missus. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick run through what this thing can do, why I bothered by it, and what features and benefits it'd offer you if you're using either the Geeks handbag one or this type of Kemper. It all looks good. Well, it looks good, but whether it is good is another story. Kemper tell you that all this reaches the parts that other foot pedals could not reach. Well, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. From the manual that you get with it. Well, unfortunately, this manual is really so basic, they might as well have not even bothered to provide it. It's rubbish. They then refer you to the big fat manual for this unit. The only problem is my big fat manual isn't the big fat manual that they sell, well, that they supply today. Mine's the old one that didn't have version 3 of the firmware and all the rest of it, or 3 point whatever it is these days. So, yeah, what have I got to do? Oh, I've got to go and download the manual off the internet, or as they say in England, tinternet. Well, some of them do. Now, what I can say is that if you've got your Kemper, your glorious Kemper, and you buy one of these, well, right from the back you need version 3 on the Kemper of the firmware, and you basically download it, flap it in there, upgrade it, and away it goes. Then get your pedal, plug your pedal in with this big fat connector here that's provided. It's like a sort of network cable, really. Well, it is a network cable that's been changed into this use, I guess. So that looks nice and robust, and in the case of mine, unlike some other guys that I've heard about, some have had cable trouble. I haven't had any cable trouble because I haven't really done anything with it yet. It's brand new. Yeah. Now when you do plug it in, what happens is that updates this once or twice sometimes, and then it's all running and operational. You can see that, well, if you can see from there, you can see that I can go down and up, or I can go across different effects and settings and all this stuff. Yeah, it's all good. Well, is it though? We shall see, won't we? Let's not forget that this pedal isn't particularly cheap. You can buy, quote, a MIDI pedal for substantially less money than what you can buy this. Indeed, you could even buy the Rocktron Midi Raider, which is substantially cheaper. It's 25% cheaper, or something like that. So why would you buy this pedal? Well, the reason you'd buy it is that when you do buy this one, it offers you this extra feature of a looper, which is just up there. And you can get a tuner, and you could do the tuner and the rest, but you couldn't do the looper with the Midi Raider. So, in effect, it's a bit like buying a looper, and think of that as part of the price. Yeah, it still makes it expensive though. This thing also supports 4 pedals or controllers, which you can use them for whatever you want, really, I guess. I'm not having read the manual yet. We shall see, won't we? A bit later, when I go and download the manual and print it all out and take a closer look. Because as it comes, as I said, there's very little you can really do with it other than just, you can set the odd thing up, but if ever you want to get into any depths with products like this, in my view, it's always better to be able to have the information at hand. So I'm going to do that. Oh, one other thing we're going to do, like it or lump it, I'm going to screw the bottom off and just take a quick look sort of inside, like the inside and outside type of things I do. How far I'll get with this pedal, I don't know. I remember working on the original Kemper and didn't get too far with it. But, anyway, we're going to screw the bottom off, show you what's inside and the sort of quality that you're buying. If you're interested. If you're not, you can always skip it forward and move to the other bits. Anyway, that's the next plan. So I guess I'm going to turn it off, screw the bottom off. Yeah. No, not that one. Well, another night or another day and another top. Anyway, here we go. What's inside? Well, could be a lot. Might be little. Let's have a look. Well, it seems like there's a little. What do you get for your money? Well, you get 3 PCBs with a load of switches on. You get a display at the top. Probably a little bit of code under there. In a few components, I don't really see many. And that's your lot. Still, I suppose you've still got that interface there. We could call it a network interface. Or maybe not. Kemper don't really tell me much about it. Some people could say, well, it's a MIDI interface, which it may be. The only thing is, when you take a look back on here, it happens to have a MAC address. And a MAC address is usually associated with a network card. Well, after all, it's a network connector. And on the back of the good old rack unit, the Kemper rack, it says network. So, go figure. Maybe he's got a network card in there for the communication, or at least a chip. I'm not going to strip it down anymore, except to say that, yeah, it is made in Germany, and yes, it is a PCB, and I guess it's like all the other PCBs in the world. Let's put the lid back quick before somebody decides it's overpriced. Well, here it is, back online, so to speak. Yeah, it's cool. It's a shame about the manual, because it's really very basic, if you want the truth. But it says it's a quick guide. And it is, it's really quick. It's faster than my car. You go boom, and it's 160 mile an hour, man, it's gone. But looking at the pedal itself, I mean, to be honest, if you were just wanting to plug it in and use it, assuming you know about performance mode or browser mode and this mode and that mode, which you should do if you've got a Kemper, well, what else does it need? One of the things I like about this pedal is you can just literally plug it in and it will just work straight out the box. There's no setting up or configuring, and that's because it's made by Kemper or a Kemper. That's a good idea, isn't it? What I also like is you can take these buttons across the top, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you can program those buttons extremely easily. Let me give you an example. What you can do with this is set up some effects onto one of these buttons, and you can turn them on and off. So for example, at the moment I've got this modulation and the delay both going to this same button, and if I press them you'll see that they both come on and they both go off. All nice. But you can actually set it up so that when one's on, the other's off. And you can see down here, maybe, that when I do that, it hops across from its on mode from one to the other. You see that? You can see maybe up the top as well. That's a pretty nice feature, and it's extremely simple to set up. And that's one of the advantages of having a pedal like this. Pretty similar in many ways to a pedal that I bought with the Grandmeister. You press the button, you do your things, and away it goes. Nice. Okay, well, what have I got here? I've got a performance mode that I've got set up, and you can see it all on here, and it all looks pretty nice and pretty simple, really. And that's the great thing about this pedal. It's actually quite simple. Whereas if you get down and mess around for hours on that thing, you could go around in circles. So what we should do, so let's zoom in and have a quick look. And it will be a quick look. I'm not going to spend all day on it because it gets a bit boring. You pressed one pedal, you pressed them all, right? Let's go and have a look anyway and see what you get for your money. Okay, well, what I've done is turn the main light off in the room, so maybe you can read that on that, maybe just that little bit better. As you can see down here, I've got the thing running in performance mode. If you can see that, I think you can. It's up here anyway. And performance mode's all about having well, these sort of performance settings, we'll call them that. And within these performance settings, you can have a number of different amps and things like that. All simple, works great with this because remember, this screen over here is nowhere to be seen when you're stuck on the stage. So in this example, we've got a Mesa Road King clean, crunch, Road King channel 3 vintage 1, channel 3 vintage 2 in the next one, vintage 1 in the next one, but it's effectively got different settings. Then I've got this modern sound at the end. So I can easily whiz through and you'll see everything up here will change. All very simple, really all very simple once you've got it set up. So that's the sort of mode that I use this in. There's not much in any of the manuals about actually doing much else, to be honest, other than just almost like a remote screen with a few buttons on it for the main unit. Now that's a bit disappointing, I think, really, because it doesn't seem as if I can program at this end. It's all got to be thrown back at that end, and this is just like a view on the current position with the option to change a few things and maybe turn a few effects on or off, which aren't programmed on that one. So, well, think about the cost of this thing. This one wasn't cheap. I think it was 490 euros. Now, that's a lot of money. That's about 400 quid for a unit that really doesn't do as much as most of the MIDI pedals I've seen. But it does do some things that the MIDI pedals don't do, and that is it offers the function of a looper. Now when I turn the looper on with this, what happens is it does say in the manual you get a 60-second stereo loop, which I'd read earlier somewhere else was a 35 or a 30-second or something like that loop. But in the manual it does tell you it's a 60-second loop. Whether it is or not, it's another story, but that's what it says and that's what you get. So we can sort of plug your guitar in, and down at the bottom here, I don't know how well you see them, but here they are. We've got a go and record, we've got a stop, press it 3 times and it'll delete the loop. We've got a fast forward, we've got a rewind, and so on and so forth. But you can go at half speed as well on this one down here. It's got a little half sine bite. All very nice if you're into loopers, but 1 minute's a bit short in my view. Most of the loopers I've seen last for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and some for 3 hours, believe it or not. Maybe it isn't quite a looper as we know it, but it is a looper for the short sequences that you might want to have, and to practice to. If you want to do that, you just put some backing on there and play to it. So I think the main advantages looking at this unit really are the fact that you've got this nice clean screen here. It's adjustable over here, by the way. May not be to you, but it is to me. And you've got also another thing that's useful that I didn't cover is you've got these pedal sockets at the top. There's actually 4 of them, so you can put variable control pedals on there and set them up in the Kemper, and away you go, remote control pedals. Well, you could set almost anything up with those variable pedals, which is quite nice. So if you want to vary the amount of reverb, for example, you can have a pedal that does that. I was doing that 20 years ago on a on a tri-axis and ground control system, but there you go. That's just a bit of history. This in some ways is better because of these things like this. You couldn't quite display things in this way on that old system, and you know, this takes no programming. That took a massive programming. Now, another thing is when you're using this thing, if you want to use these up and downs here, you've got to couple of buttons for that. As you'll see what happens when I choose the next one. Well, there's only a default performance there, and it's flashing this number 1 down here. But let's switch back. Let's imagine oh, it did it. Yeah, there you have it. We're back to this, and we can choose one of these settings. Well, it flings itself to default at period X. I haven't looked at how to change that yet, but no doubt I will. But back down there, if we hit number 3, it's going to bring number 3 in straight away. So what you do is change and hit. Assuming you can read that quick. Hit number 1. But it defaults to number 1. There might be a way of changing that. I haven't really looked that close yet. With it being a new pedal, I just wanted to get it so I could show you really a little bit about it. You don't really see much else. Yeah, you get guys on the internet just doing a very, very quick review, but you never really see much else, and you certainly never see inside one, do you? Got a very nice little tap feature down the end as well, if you can see that. That's so you can set the tap for maybe the delay, something like that. All in all, quite nice. You have a tune button as well, so we can tune the guitar in really nice and easily. Oh, back off. Well, here I am back again. Not that much to talk about really. It's a bit limited on information, contrary to what anybody might tell you. It just seems almost like I bought a pedal that's just got a screen on it and a few extra benefits. Well, there are some benefits to having this, as opposed to a plain MIDI pedal, which I can tell you for a fact that's the case, because I've been operating my Kemper rack with a MIDI pedal. Would I buy this again? Well, to be honest, if you're doing a lot of gigging and that sort of thing with the Kemper rack, or indeed the handbag, it's probably a good buy. Save you a load of time and messing around, and you know what I mean, all that crap that you get on some of the other things, some of the other units, you know. I'd like to be able to say that, well, yeah, you can program this and you can do all these things from here, like I could on the good old ground control. That's a nice unit, and maybe the Midi Raider, but it doesn't seem to be able to do that. Now, I only have really limited information for this unit. Even in the manual, yeah, sure enough, they talk about all the effects and all the settings for the effects. Well, that's all great, but I don't want to know about the effects. I already know what they are. I want to be down here and look at what I'm got for my money, so to speak. And it doesn't look like I get a lot. As you saw inside the unit, you've got basically three, we'll call them PCBs. I guess that's what they are. But you know, a PCB is not really any different from a PCB anywhere in the world these days. They're all pretty much of a much. So I can't say that, well, these PCBs are better than the others, because they're not. They're about the same as everybody else's. And I think these switches are about the same as everybody else's as well. They look pretty similar. Obviously you've got a sizable screen there, but it's not that big. It's not as big as on the GT100, for example. That's got two big fat ones. And they supplied a decent cable with it, which is an important aspect. And I think the communications also being done with you know, a network connection, so you've got a faster speed rather than the snail-like MIDI that kicks around for a lot of stuff. Right, well, the build quality is exceptional. You've got really thick steel. Looks like steel to me. It's got this nice painted coat. I don't know how well the paint's going to last. Well, they've got some stick-ons over that, so maybe this paint will last longer than maybe I'm suggesting. Also, the quality of the PCBs in there and the switches and the rest, although I'm saying, well, they're all pretty much the same. Well, I guess they are, but you can tell that this has been put together with love. No, it's just been put together. That's another company, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, it's connected with a high-speed connection, which I like, as opposed to plain old snail-like MIDI. I do like that. I think that's a big improvement. It's got this little protection bar so that you don't put your foot through the lens. That could be fun. Now, if you're just using it in a studio, Would you buy one of these? No, probably not. If you're playing live all the time, or even now and then, it's not a bad buy, and you know, I'd recommend you get one. I'll give it an overall rating of about 7 out of 10. And you know, all you Kemper guys will say, well, what's wrong with Tony? Is he nuts? Well, no, I'm not nuts. What it is, this. Consider this. I know you Kemper guys. I know you, the non-Kemper guys too. But the Kemper guys will always be a bit biased towards their equipment. Well, I'm one, but I'm not actually biased. What I think it is you've got a number of things. Number one, it's 495 euros as an introduction. God knows what it's going to be after that. Well, that's about 400 quid in my book. And I can buy one of the best MIDI pedals in the world for that. Well, Kemper's been clever. Kemper's designed this looper in here, which you don't get and you can't get, they say, unless you got this pedal. That's a good move. But what else takes it down from 10 out of 10? Well, I think there's a sort of lack of programmability on the pedal, not necessarily up there. Because you can faff around up there all day, can't you? Which is not what we want to do. We want to plug in and play. Unfortunately, for the most part, you can just plug in and play. But if you really wanted to go and do certain other things, which I'm not even sure it can do, there's no paperwork, or little, then maybe you'll just look at it as I did and you say, well, it's just a controller. A bit like the Grandmeister one, in fact, that costs 120 quid. That's just a controller. This is just a controller. So if you're looking for something extra out of this, I think the only things that are extras, well, you can have 4 pedals on it, that's useful. And you can switch these things on and off like that. See how long that took to program. That's the good points. But there are the bad points as well, in so much as it's a high price for a pedal that seems to have, I don't know, lack of extras. I don't want to use the word extras. You guys will know what I mean, especially once you own one. So that's why it's got a 7 out of 10. I like the pedal, I like the build, I like all that stuff, but I think it's a little bit overpriced for what it is. But I do also like the fact that you don't have to do anything with it. You just plug it in and you can go. If you understand your performance mode, you'll be away in minutes. Well, indeed as I was. Funny thing is, I've never used that performance mode before I got the pedal. So one of the things that the pedal's going to let you do, and I guess you will be doing, once you plug the pedal in, you start finding that the performance mode becomes a useful thing, as opposed to it's just there. Oh, and lastly, the other reason why I gave it a 7 out of 10 was the length of time on the looper. Seems a bit miserable. Skimpy, for want of a better word. Most loopers today, honestly, they go on for, even the crappy ones are 20 minutes. This is 1 minute. Now, that doesn't mean that in the future Kemper won't change things on this product. They could well do. They could do it tomorrow morning at the bat of an eyelid. Maybe, if there's enough RAM in that unit to allow them to do that. Now, I might sit on here a bit later on demonstrating it, or not. It depends what mood I'm in. I don't really care so much these days. You know how life is. So I'll either demo it or I won't, but there's not much to demo. You press 5 buttons and you know what a pedal does. Come on. This review is more about understanding the quality of the product and some of the things that it can give you easily. Not in a complex way, but easily. I.e. plug in and go. That's what you want, innit? You're guitarists, aren't you? Not computer freaks, right? Yeah, well, if you're computer freaks, go buy one of them others. This is simple. And what I like about Kemper, even up this part, most of it is pretty simple. It's not all simple, but mainly. Now, Kemper do give you a 3 years warranty on the pedal, as well as the unit, and I thought that was quite nice. Maybe they'll tell me mine's void now, and I've taken the back off and shown everyone. They'll like that. Well, maybe they're not. Let's face it, there's little to damage, is there? Actually, there's nothing to damage. Very little. That concludes it. That shows you the Kemper. It shows you the pedal. Well, it shows you a bit of the Kemper. You've got to look at the other stuff. There's loads of guys playing it, but there's not so many guys that do the things that I do with them. And don't forget, you can always whiz off to TonyMcKenzie.com, my website, to have a look at all the other stuff I've got on there. I must update it one of these days. I'm dropping behind. I have the same drive, It's just life. Or you can go to youtube.com/TonyMcKenzie.com, which has got about 135 videos, give or take, on there. And has been looked at by millions. In fact, there's about 13.5 million minutes of people watching things. That sounds awesome to me. I don't know. That's a lot of people and a lot of time sitting there viewing it. I think they've figured it out at 30 years or something, or somebody sitting there watching. 30 years of Tony Mckenzie. Wow. Just one last point. If you can see the screen from there, maybe you can, maybe you can't. It's not the best screen, but it'll do for this. I've switched into browser mode. When you choose any of these things along here, it's going to be switching across to different modes. As you can see, I've got different things switched on and off, but you can see along the top all the effects and things like that you've got set up. I just wanted to show you that quickly. I'm not going to spend time on it zooming in and rubbish like that, because to be honest, it's all pretty simple. It's just showing you what you've got turned on and what you haven't got, and what you've got plugged in and what you haven't. It gets boring.